moving forward, let us create our player animations because our player is going to be the first game object that we are going to create and script. So let us create his animations. I took the liberty of creating a prefabs folder and inside of it, player prefabs. So currently it's an empty folder. The same way with our animations. So we have our animations folder and our player animations. So we need to stay organized, and that's why I've created these folders. So this is nothing hard. Right click, create, and name those folders. Now going here in our sprites, game sprites, and here we have our player. First, I'm going to select our images from player 1 up to player 5, and this is going to be our player walk animation. So simply drag and drop them here. And if I go in the animation window, and here for the animation, if I play it, this is what we see for our player animation. So now I'm going to take this animation and its controller, and I'm going to move them here in our animations and player animations folder. And I'm also going to simply put this or click this drop down list and move this animation panel here. We also need to create an idle animation. This animation that we created is going to be our walk animation, and also, as I said, we need an idle animation. So save it in our player animations folder and click save. Sample rate is going to be 12, and we are simply going to drag this single image of our player, and this is going to be his idle animation. And I'm going to move back this panel here. Now I'm going to select the player, and for these animations here, I'm going to rename this one to walk animation. And I am going to set the default animation to be our idle, because when we start the game, we don't want our player walking. Instead, we want him standing. And I'm also going to create a parameter, which is going to be a Boolean. So I'm going to name it walk. And I'm going to make a transition from our idle to walk and from our walk to idle. And clicking on this transition from idle to walk, the condition that I want to be fulfilled is that when walk, our parameter, is equal to true, then we are going to go from idle to walk animation. And we are going to go back from our walk to our idle animation, again using this condition. But now when our walk is equal to false, I want to go back from walk to idle animation. And if I run the game now, we are not going to see our player walking. Instead, we are going to see him standing. If I click here for this parameter walk, we are going to see him walking. If I uncheck it again, we are going to see our player standing. And let me just rename the player here in the hierarchy panel to simply player. And I'm going to set the first image here in his sprite render, because now at the moment we see that our player is in his walking state. But I'm going to select him and drag this first image here in our sprite render, and now we see that we have this image right here. I'm also going to attach a box collider 2D on our player, and I am going to attach a rigid body 2D on our player, which is going to apply physics on him. And I'm going to set the constraints to freeze at the Z rotation. And let me just tag the player while we are at it. So we have this default tag player. We don't need to create new ones, so simply tag it with that tag. And practically we are done with setting up our player and his animations. Before we start scripting our player's movement and jump, so on and so forth, and all the other things, I'm going to save our player here in the prefabs folder. And we are going to stop here, and in the next video we are going to start programming our player's movement.